The cargo bay of Star Station Helios 9 was always loud, always full, and always busy. Ships of every shape and size docked their sleek human transports, wide-winged avian skimmers, glowing crystal vessels from species no one could even pronounce. But today, in the middle of all that noise and traffic, one small voice kept trying to break through. "Please, someone, please help my mother." The voice belonged to a young alien girl, maybe 14 or 15 in human years. She had pale silver skin, large dark eyes, and soft hair that seemed to move like gentle water. Her clothes were torn, one sleeve burned. Her small hands shook as she tried to get the attention of the crowd, but no one stopped. Everyone kept walking. Everyone kept ignoring her. Some pretended they didn't hear. Others looked away. A few muttered in their own languages about trouble, danger, or bad luck. Even a group of security officers only gave her a single glance before turning back to their tasks. Only one person actually slowed down, a human. His name was Elias Ward, a field mechanic from Earth, returning from a long job repairing solar relay towers on the station's outer ring. His jumpsuit was stained with oil and dust, and his hair was damp from the heat of the machines he'd been working on. He was tired, ready to get food, and go to sleep for 12 hours. But he heard the voice. He heard the fear in it, and he couldn't pretend he didn't. He watched the young alien girl push her way through the crowd, nearly tripping as people brushed past her. She held a small data tablet to her chest like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "No one will help me," she whispered to herself. "No one will even look at me." Elias stepped forward. "Hey," he said gently. "You okay?" The girl froze. Her eyes widened in surprise. Slowly, she turned her head toward him, like she wasn't sure if he was real. "You heard me?" she asked. "I did," he said. "What's going on? Are you hurt?" She shook her head quickly. "Not me. My mother. She is dying. She needs help. Urgent help." Elias frowned. "Then where are the medics?" "I tried," she said. "But station medics refuse. They say her species is difficult to treat. They say it is dangerous for them. They say they have no responsibility." Elias sighed. Helios 9 was known for diversity, but also for political caution. Some species were considered too risky to handle without special clearance. "What species are you?" he asked. "Lumerian," she answered softly. Elias blinked. Lumerians were rare. Very rare. They avoided most populated systems and only traveled in emergencies. Most humans had never even seen one. "And your mother?" Elias asked. "She is here, still alive, but she won't be for long." The girl lowered her head as if expecting him to walk away too. But Elias didn't. "What do you need?" he asked. The girl looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. "Please, follow me. I will show you." She started walking, weaving quickly between crates and cargo workers. Elias followed close behind, pushing aside a few annoyed officers and stepping around fuel containers that were almost as tall as he was. "Name's Elias," he said. "My name is Ariha," the girl replied without turning. "You come here alone?" he asked. "No," she said, her voice tightening. "But I am alone now." Elias didn't push for more details. After several minutes of rushing through the station's lower corridors, Ariha stopped in front of an abandoned maintenance room. The lights flickered weakly above the door. The panel was broken. Someone had forced it open. Inside, Elias found a woman lying on the floor, wrapped in a dull emergency blanket. Her skin was the same silver shade as Ariha's, but faint blue patches flowed across her arms like streams of fading light. Her breathing was shallow. Her eyes were closed. "Mom." Ariha knelt beside her. She touched her mother's forehead. But the woman didn't wake. Elias crouched down. "Is she injured?" he asked. Ariha shook her head. "Not injured. Sick. Very sick." "What kind of sickness?" "Her body cannot handle your station's atmosphere. Something in the air is wrong for her." "Toxic. Normally Lumerians travel with special filters. But ours were damaged during arrival." "Then why not go to your embassy?" Ariha's voice trembled. "Our ship crashed before we could reach the embassy. We were attacked." Elias felt a chill Attacked? By who? I don't know. We were being hunted. My mother said they wanted our research. They were waiting at the jump gate. We barely escaped. Elias looked at the woman on the ground. She wasn't just sick, she was dying. And Ariha wasn't lying. Her fear was too real. I need her filter specifications, Elias said. Ariha quickly handed him the data tablet she'd been clutching. I recorded everything I could, she said. Please. I know humans fix machines. You fix things. Maybe you can fix her filter. Elias scrolled through the schematics. The Lumerian filter was advanced far beyond human tech, but still understandable with enough engineering knowledge. I think I can repair this, Elias said slowly. But I need the actual device. Ariha reached into a small pack at her side and pulled out a shattered metallic collar. Wires hung from it. The internal crystal core was cracked. Elias inspected it. This isn't just broken. It's been hit with a weapon. Ariha nodded. During the attack. Repairing this is going to take hours, Elias said. Maybe more. Ariha swallowed hard. Does that mean she will die? Elias shook his head. Not if I can help it. He stood up and scanned the room. We can't stay here. Too open. Too obvious. If someone attacked your ship, they might still be looking for you. And if station security finds you hiding, they'll drag you to quarantine. And they'll leave your mother to die. Ariha lowered her eyes. I know. Do you trust me? Elias asked. She stared at him for a long moment. Her dark eyes were full of fear but also the last bits of hope she had left. I do. Then help me lift her, Elias said. We're taking her to my workshop. Elias guided Ariha as they carefully lifted the woman. She was light, too light. Her body was weakening fast. They slipped through the back corridors, avoiding the main walkways. Ariha stayed right behind him, clutching her mother's hand tightly. From time to time, she whispered something soft in Lumerian language words that sounded like prayers. When they finally reached the workshop on the engineering deck, Elias shut the door behind them and locked it. The room was cramped, filled with tools, spare parts, and half-assembled machines. But it was safe. At least for now, Elias thought. They set the woman on a padded repair table. Ariha brushed her mother's hair gently, trying not to cry. Elias, she whispered. Thank you. Let me see the filter again, he said. Ariha handed it over. Elias set it on his workbench, turned on the lights, and started examining the core. His fingers moved quickly, disconnecting the broken wires, checking the crystal, testing the circuits. This is delicate, he muttered. One wrong move, and the whole device will break completely. Ariha stood silently, watching him with wide eyes. Minutes turned into an hour. Then 2. Elias's hands grew tired. But he didn't stop. Ariha brought him water. She didn't speak unless he asked her a question. She didn't want to distract him. She didn't want to lose her mother. Finally, Elias exhaled sharply. I can't fix the crystal, he said. It's too damaged. But, Ariha's heart stopped for a moment. But, Elias continued, I can build a new core from human parts. You can? Ariha gasped. It won't be perfect, and it won't last forever. But it might keep her alive long enough to get proper help. Ariha covered her mouth in relief. Please, do it. Elias nodded. He grabbed 3 spare power cells, a stabilizer ring, and a microconverter from an old drone. His movements were faster now, more confident. He soldered wires, reformed circuits, and slowly shaped the new core. After another 30 minutes, the filter was ready. Elias carried it to the table. Help me put it on her, he said. Ariha gently lifted her mother's head, while Elias fastened the collar around her neck. When it clicked into place, the device flickered weakly, then glowed with steady blue light. Ariha held her breath. At first nothing happened. Then her mother's chest rose deeper, fuller. Her breathing steadied. Her skin brightened slightly. She's stabilizing, Elias said. Ariha burst into tears. Thank you. Thank you so much. But Elias wasn't smiling, because he had noticed something else. The workshop sensors were blinking red. Someone was scanning the deck. Someone was searching for a Lumerian life signature. Someone who was not station security. Elias looked at the door. Ariha, he said quietly. We're not safe yet. Ariha wiped her tears and turned toward him, fear creeping back into her eyes. Who's coming? She whispered. Elias didn't know. But he knew one thing. Whoever had attacked them before had found them again. The alarm light blinked again, bright, sharp, and impossible to ignore. Elias stared at the scanner readout on the wall. 3 red dots were moving slowly across the engineering deck. Not random. Not wandering. Searching for Ariha. Searching for her mother. Ariha saw his tense expression and stepped closer. What is wrong? Elias tapped the scanner. Someone's tracking a Lumarian signal. That means they're tracking your mother. Or maybe even your bag. Ariha's hands shook. The hunters found us. Elias didn't want to confirm it, but he also didn't want to lie. Most likely, he said quietly. We need to move. Soon. Ariha looked at her mother, who was breathing more steadily but still unconscious. We cannot move her far. She is too weak. Elias rubbed the back of his neck. He had repaired hundreds of machines. But saving people, especially hunted ones, was another world entirely. Let me think, he said. Just give me a moment. But the station didn't give him a moment. The floor vibrated. A heavy metal thud echoed from the corridor outside. Ariha's eyes widened. What was that? Elias already had his guess. Someone forcing the security gates. Another thud, then another. Strong, mechanical. Slow. Great, he muttered. They brought a breach drone. Ariha hugged herself, trembling. Elias, will they kill us? Elias looked straight at her. Not if I can help it. He walked to his workbench and pulled out a small metal case. Ariha watched as he opened it and took out a compact EMP pulse tool illegal for civilians, but very useful for a mechanic who often had to disable malfunctioning robots. You are going to fight them? Ariha whispered. Not fight, Elias said. Just slow them down. He handed her a small communication earpiece. Put this in. If we get separated, I can still talk to you. Ariha obeyed, though her fingers trembled so much she almost dropped it. Stay near your mother, Elias said. And if anything happens, hide behind the tool cabinets. They're reinforced. Ariha nodded, fear in her eyes. Elias took a deep breath and unlocked the workshop door just a crack. Just enough to see the hallway. The corridor was dim, silent, then he heard it. The heavy metal footsteps again. A shadow moved at the far end of the hall. It was tall, maybe twice the size of a human, its body covered in dark armor plates, its head glowing with a single red scanner eye. A hunter drone, but not a standard model. This one was custom-built, with reinforced plating and silent servos. Someone had invested serious money. Elias whispered. Yep. That's not good. The drone's scanner eye swept across the hallway, searching for a life signature. Elias ducked behind the door before it could spot him. He whispered into the earpiece, Ariha, get ready. We're leaving. Ariha's voice came back small and frightened. Where will we go? Anywhere that isn't here. Another heavy step shook the floor. The drone was getting closer. Elias tightened his grip on the EMP tool. He had only one shot. If he missed, the drone would alert whoever controlled it. And things would get much worse. He waited. The metal footsteps grew louder. Closer. The shadow stretched across the floor. Closer. The drone's red scanner eye glowed brighter as it approached the workshop door. Elias counted down in his head. 3, 2, 1. He kicked the door wide open and fired the EMP directly at the drone's head. A burst of blue electricity exploded across the hallway. The drone jerked violently, sparks flying from its joints. It staggered backward, its scanner eye flickering. The whole machine twitched, like it was fighting invisible chains. Then, it collapsed to one knee. Elias didn't wait. He shouted, Ariha! Now! He rushed back into the workshop and grabbed the hover gurney, a floating platform used to move heavy machinery. He slid it under Ariha's mother, with practiced speed. Ariha ran to help. Is the machine dead? No, Elias said. Just stunned. We have maybe 30 seconds. He activated the gurney, and it lifted her mother gently into the air. Ariha held her mother's hand tightly. "Where do we go?" "One place the hunters will hesitate to enter," Elias said. "The ventilation sublevel. It's too tight for drones." Ariha looked confused. "Ventilation? Like air tunnels?" "Exactly," Elias replied. Ariha blinked. "Wonderful. Welcome to human engineering," Elias said. He pushed the floating gurney out the back door just as the stunned drone started rebooting, its joints twitching back to life. A red light glowed weakly in its eye. It wasn't down for long. "Move!" Elias shouted. They hurried down the narrow corridor to a maintenance hatch. Elias slammed his hand on the control panel. The door slid open with a hiss. Inside was a cramped duct lined with pipes and cables. Ariha hesitated. "This is very small. You'll get used to it," Elias said. "Trust me." He lowered the gurney's height so it could slide inside. Ariha crawled in first. Her mother floated behind her. Elias entered last and sealed the hatch. Darkness surrounded them, except for the soft blue light of the repaired filter on Ariha's mother's neck. For a few minutes, they moved quietly, crawling through the narrow passage. Ariha kept glancing back at Elias. "I do not understand," she said softly. "Why do you help us? You could have walked away like everyone else." Elias shrugged, even though she couldn't see it well. "Someone needed help. But humans are not responsible for my people," she said. "Maybe," Elias replied. "But I'm responsible for what I choose to do." Ariha looked down. "Thank you." The duct creaked as they crawled. Then Elias heard something behind them, a distant metallic clang. Ariha froze. "What was that?" Elias whispered. "Another drone. Another drone." "But you said they cannot fit," Ariha said. "They can't," Elias replied. "But they can scan. And if they find the hatch we used, they might send smaller drones." Ariha swallowed hard. They moved faster. The duct twisted left, then right, leading deeper into the station's underlevels. Finally, they reached a larger chamber, a round room where several ducts connected. Elias checked his map. "We're close. There's a hidden service room up ahead. Safe place to rest." Ariha nodded, but then she noticed something. Her mother's breathing had changed, not weaker, faster, sharper, like she was reacting to something. "Elias," Ariha whispered urgently. "Something is wrong." Elias slid beside her and checked the filter device. The blue light was still glowing steady, but her mother's skin was changing. Faint patterns of light were forming across it, like glowing vines. Ariha gasped. No, this is bad. Elias, this is very bad." "What does it mean?" Elias asked. "She is entering a defensive biological state," Ariha explained. "It happens when a Lumerian senses danger while unconscious. Her body is preparing for harm." "Will it hurt her?" Elias asked. "Not yet," Ariha said. "But it means she is sensing the hunters. They are close." Elias's jaw tightened. "Then we keep moving." They crawled toward the next duct. But before Elias could open it, a blast shook the entire station. The whole chamber quivered, dust falling from above. Ariha screamed and shielded her mother. "What was that?" Elias shouted. His answer came through the duct walls, muffled robotic voices, echoing from the direction they came. And then, the grinding sound of metal cutting metal. The hunters were slicing open the hatch. Elias's blood ran cold. "We need to move. Now." He opened the next duct only to freeze. Because inside, in the darkness, two glowing red eyes stared back at him. A drone. A smaller one. Already waiting for them. Ariha gasped in terror. Elias clenched his teeth. They were trapped between drones in front and drones behind. No way out. Unless... Elias grabbed a wrench from his belt and whispered, "Ariha, whatever happens, stay behind me." Ariha squeezed her mother's hand, trembling. The drone in the duct lifted its arms, preparing to fire. But before it could, a new voice echoed through the chamber. A deep, calm, commanding voice. "Step away from the Lumerians." The drone froze. Ariha turned slowly. Elias did too. Standing in the shadows of the opposite duct was a tall figure wrapped in a long, dark coat, his face hidden behind a mask shaped like a bird's beak. glowing with blue lines. Elias whispered, "Who are you?" The masked stranger stepped forward, his boots silent on the metal floor. "Someone," he said. "Who knows exactly why the hunters want that woman alive?" He glanced at Ariha. "And if we do not move quickly, all three of you will die." Elias's heart pounded. The figure in the dark coat moved with perfect calm, like a shadow that belonged to the station itself. He didn't know whether to trust him or to fight him, but the masked stranger's words left no room for hesitation. "Quickly. Follow me," the man said, his voice low but commanding. Ariha tightened her grip on her mother's hand. "Who are you?" she whispered to Elias. "Not the time," Elias replied. "Just trust him." The stranger extended a gloved hand toward the hover gurney. "I will help with the patient." "Move." Elias moved beside him, lifting the gurney carefully. The stranger's presence was calm but forceful, and Elias realized that his help was not just physical. There was a way the man seemed to scan the corridors, anticipating every move, every threat, every step ahead. The drones behind them were already recovering from the EMP blast. Their red sensors glowed faintly in the distance, moving closer, slower now, but relentless. There was no room for error. The masked man led them through a series of service corridors so narrow that the gurney had to be tilted at odd angles. Ariha followed closely, whispering soft words to her mother, as if the presence of danger demanded a protective chant. Elias noticed the Lumerian woman's faint glow. The defensive light pattern had grown stronger, almost as if her body knew they were being hunted and was preparing for an emergency. "Her body is resilient," Ariha murmured. "But only humans. Humans can repair filters, stabilize energy flows, and prevent collapse. We are lucky. You are lucky." Elias glanced at her. "I'm not lucky, just stubborn." The stranger glanced over at him, tilting his head slightly. "Human stubbornness is valuable," he said simply. Then he added, almost to himself, "and rare." Finally, they arrived at a maintenance shaft leading down to the station's lower levels even most staff avoided. The air was thicker, smells stronger, and the lighting minimal. It was a place where drones were less likely to venture, especially the bigger models. "This way," the stranger whispered, pressing a hand against a wall panel that slid open like magic. A hidden staircase appeared. "Follow carefully. No noise." Elias nodded and led the gurney down the stairs. Ariha followed, murmuring protective words to her mother. The masked man stayed behind them, covering their rear. Suddenly, a loud metallic clang echoed from the upper corridors. The bigger drones had recovered and were investigating. Their engines hummed through the walls. "They are persistent," the stranger muttered. "I would say worse than persistent," Elias said, clutching his wrench tightly. "They are insane." The stranger only shook his head slightly, as if amused. "Focus on survival, not complaints. We're almost at the safe zone." As they descended further, the lights grew dimmer, and Elias realized they were entering an old engineering sector, one used decades ago for abandoned energy storage. Most maps didn't mark it. The air smelled of metal and old oil. The corridors twisted in impossible angles, like the station itself had grown organically. "This way," the stranger said again, pressing a panel that opened to a wider chamber. He gestured toward a collection of old maintenance bots and supplies. "This is safe?" Ariha asked cautiously. "For now," the stranger replied. "We can hide here long enough to plan the next step." Elias set the gurney down on a flat surface. He examined her mother. "She's stable for the moment. The filter is holding. Her body is strong. But we can't stay here forever." The stranger crossed his arms. "The hunters will come. They are skilled, but they are predictable. They rely on tools, not adaptability. You have something they cannot anticipate." Elias frowned. "And what is that?" The stranger glanced at Ariha's mother. "Hope and ingenuity." Ariha's eyes widened. "Hope? But she is." She looked at her mother. still weak, still breathing shallowly. How is hope enough? The stranger's voice was calm. Hope makes you move. Hope keeps you alive when all else fails. And human ingenuity, that is rare in this sector. The hunters do not understand it. Elias's pride stirred slightly. Well, I do know how to fix a lot of things, including machines designed to kill. Good, the stranger said. Then you may be useful. Ariha looked between the two humans. You will help us? She asked. Even though we are not your people? Elias shrugged. Because it's the right thing, that's all. The stranger nodded. Agreed. But remember, it is not enough to be good. We must be clever. We must be faster than the hunters. Just then, a soft hum vibrated through the chamber. The hunters were closer. Already? Elias muttered. How do they track us so fast? The stranger moved to a nearby control panel and activated an old sensor array. The room lit up, with faint green and yellow displays. They rely on standard Lumerian biosignatures. This array will cloak your mother's signal temporarily. Enough to give us time to move. Elias knelt beside the gurney and checked the filter. She should be fine for the next few hours. Maybe longer if we're careful. Ariha let out a sigh of relief. Thank you. Both of you. The stranger gave a curt nod. Don't thank me yet. The danger is not over. It never is. Elias noticed the faint glow fading from her mother's skin. She's relaxing. Good sign. Not fully. Ariha corrected. She can feel danger. Even through filters. Even while unconscious. The hunters. They are persistent. Elias clenched his fists. Then, we make them regret it. Ariha glanced at him. Regret? How? Elias smiled faintly. Improvisation. Machines. Tricks. Humans can do what drones cannot imagine. The stranger raised an eyebrow. I like your confidence. Suddenly, a metallic echo bounced down the chamber. One of the hunters had found the entrance. Their heavy, clanking footsteps vibrated through the walls. We move now, the stranger said. Elias secured the gurney, while Ariha checked her mother's filter one last time. The three of them moved carefully through a hidden maintenance hatch, leading deeper into the labyrinth. The masked man led, scanning every corner. Elias followed with the gurney, and Ariha brought up the rear, whispering soft words to her mother to keep her calm. The tunnels twisted and turned. The air was thick, and the lights were almost non-existent. Every step was tense, every sound magnified. Then they arrived at a larger chamber, a forgotten drone repair bay. Old equipment lay scattered across the floor. Rusted hoverbots, half-disassembled energy cores, and broken machinery littered the space. Perfect for hiding or setting traps. The stranger motioned them inside. We can rest here, but stay alert. Elias pushed the gurney to a corner. If the hunters follow, we can use some of this junk to confuse them. Old energy cores can create electromagnetic bursts. Rusted bots can block corridors. Ariha watched him work, assembling a few pieces of scrap together. You really think you can outsmart drones? Elias smiled faintly. I've repaired machines that were smarter than me. I know their weaknesses. All they do is follow commands. We have imagination. That counts for a lot. The masked stranger observed silently. Humans adapt quickly. That is useful. The hunters underestimate adaptability. For the first time, Ariha allowed herself to hope. Her mother's breathing had steadied. Elias's calm presence gave her courage, and this mysterious ally, though frightening, he seemed genuinely committed to protecting them. Minutes passed. The sound of drones above had faded slightly. The chamber was quiet, except for the hum of the old equipment and the steady breathing of Ariha's mother. Elias leaned back against a crate. We can't stay here forever. But at least for now. She's alive. Ariha nodded. Yes, alive. And that is enough. The masked stranger finally spoke, his voice cutting through the silence. Hunters do not give up. They will try again. We must plan carefully. Elias looked at him. Then we fight smart. Not just fast. Ariha placed a hand on her mother, whispering softly. I will do anything to protect her. Anything. Elias glanced at her. Good. We all will. The stranger nodded once. Then we prepare. Because this is not over. The hunters will come again. And next time, they may not wait for mistakes. In the shadows of the Forgotten Bay, the small group human, Lumerian, and masked stranger planned their next move. Each one of them knew that survival was more than just staying alive. It was about hope, courage, and outthinking a relentless enemy that never stopped hunting. Outside, the station's corridors were quiet, for now, but the hum of the drones would return, and when it did, Elias, Ariha, and her mother would have to be ready. Because in this galaxy, survival favored the clever, the brave, and the adaptable, and they were all three. The air in the abandoned drone bay was thick with tension. Elias worked quickly, assembling makeshift electromagnetic traps from the old energy cores scattered around the room. Sparks flew as he connected wires, recalibrated capacitors, and adjusted timing circuits. Ariha stood beside him, clutching her mother's hand, her eyes wide with fear and hope. The masked stranger moved silently around the room, scanning the ventilation ducts and passageways. Every creak of metal, every faint vibration made his hand twitch toward the concealed weapon at his belt. He was ready for anything, and Elias knew they would need his skill. Aria's mother lay on the gurney, her breathing calm now but still fragile. The glow of her Lumerian filter pulsed steadily, casting soft blue light across the shadowed room. Elias checked it again. She's stable. For now. If we move carefully, she'll survive the journey. Ariha's voice trembled. Do you really think we can escape? The hunters. They are so persistent. Elias smiled faintly, wiping sweat from his forehead. They're fast. Yes. Smart? No. We just need to be clever. And I know a few tricks they won't expect. The masked stranger stepped closer. The corridors ahead are narrow. Drones will follow. But their sensors are tuned for predictable signals. They cannot adapt to improvisation. That is your advantage. Elias nodded. Exactly. We improvise. We confuse. And we survive. The first sound came like a distant drumbeat, a metallic thump, echoing from the upper corridors. The hunters had found them again. Their engines hummed faintly, mechanical limbs scraping against metal. They would be here soon. Time to move, the stranger said. Elias carefully lowered the gurney onto a portable hover sled he had prepared. The device had been modified with his own circuitry to stabilize it for the long, twisting journey through the station's maintenance tunnels. It would move quietly and quickly. Ariha helped lift her mother's hand, whispering calming words. Stay with us, mother. Please stay with us. Scudding, her mother's chest rose gently. The Lumerian light on her filter pulsed softly in response. Even unconscious, she seemed to sense the urgency, her body responding as though she were alive in every way. Follow me, the masked stranger commanded. He led the way to a hidden hatch in the far corner of the drone bay. Elias, controlling the hover sled, followed with Ariha bringing up the rear. They entered a narrow service tunnel. Elias adjusted the sled's hover height to clear dangling cables. Sparks from old machinery flashed in the dim light. The tunnel twisted left and right, then spiraled downward. It smelled of oil, dust, and the metallic tang of old circuits. The hunters' drones were close. Elias could hear them metallic claws scraping the walls, sensors glowing faintly in the darkness. But the traps he had set in the drone bay would slow them down, giving the small group precious time. The stranger stopped suddenly. We need a diversion, he whispered. Elias frowned. A diversion? What do you mean? Over there, the stranger said, pointing to an old machinery closet. It contains unstable energy cores. If we trigger them, the drones will be forced to retreat temporarily. Elias's eyes lit up. I like that plan. He quickly set up a timer on the cores, connecting it to a small relay switch. Then he signaled, Ariha. Get ready. On my mark. We moved through the next corridor. Ariha nodded, clutching her mother tightly. The glow of the Lumerian filter reflected in her wide eyes. Now, Elias shouted, and they pushed the hover sled forward, sliding through the narrow corridor. Sparks flew behind them as the energy cores detonated softly, releasing a burst of light and electromagnetic interference. The drones paused, their sensors scrambling to process the disruption. Move, the masked stranger urged. They hurried down the twisting tunnel. Elias controlled the hover sled with precision, weaving it past cables and support beams. Ariha whispered to her mother. Almost there. Almost safe. The drones recovered quickly. Red sensor lights glowed faintly in the distance. They were relentless, following the group through every corridor, every twist and turn. We're not out yet, Elias muttered. Keep your heads down. The tunnel opened into a wider chamber, an abandoned cargo hold long forgotten by the station authorities. Old crates and machinery formed natural barriers. Elias maneuvered the hover sled behind one of the larger crates, giving them cover. The masked stranger scanned the room and motioned them toward a stack of old cargo lifts. Through there, he said. We can reach the outer maintenance bay. From there, an escape shuttle can get us off the station. Ariha's eyes widened. Shuttle? There's one still operational? The stranger nodded. Hidden. Protected. Unlikely the hunters know its location. Elias felt a surge of hope. Then we make a run for it. Carefully, he guided the hover sled through the cargo hold. Sparks from malfunctioning panels occasionally lit the path. Shadows dancing across the walls. The drones were near, their sensors cutting through the dark in sharp beams. Elias adjusted the sled, ducking low, weaving carefully. Suddenly, one drone's red sensor light swept across their hiding spot. Elias froze. The drone paused. Its mechanical arm reached forward. Then, a sudden burst of blue light from the masked stranger's hand device blinded the drone's sensors temporarily. It emitted a shrill metallic screech before retreating slightly. Go! The stranger shouted. Elias pushed the sled forward. Ariha followed, running alongside with her mother, floating safely on the hover sled. Sparks and debris flew behind them as the drone struggled to recalibrate. The corridor ended at the cargo lift. Elias guided the hover sled onto the lift platform. The masked stranger hit the control panel. The lift shuddered and began its slow ascent, moving through the old maintenance shafts toward the station's outer levels. The lift groaned under the weight, but it held. Elias adjusted the hover sled's balance, keeping Ariha's mother steady. Ariha whispered softly, almost there, almost safe. The lift stopped at a hidden outer maintenance bay. Outside, a small escape shuttle waited, covered partially by cargo containers and station scaffolding. Its engines were quiet, but its design was sleek, built for speed and stealth. The masked stranger led them quickly. We have minutes, maybe less. Board the shuttle. Elias lifted Ariha's mother into the cabin. Ariha followed, helping her mother settle in. The stranger stayed at the rear, checking the corridors for drones. Elias sat in the pilot's seat. Shuttle ready? Yes, the stranger said. But the drones are closing in. You'll need to move fast. Elias activated the engines. The shuttle hummed to life, low and steady. He engaged the stealth thrusters and lifted off carefully, hugging the shadows of the station's outer scaffolding. Red lights blinked below drones scanning the area. But the shuttle's stealth mode made them nearly invisible. Elias maneuvered carefully, avoiding searchlights and patrol paths. Ariha held her mother's hand tightly, whispering soft words of comfort. Minutes passed, tense and silent, until the station's bulk finally disappeared behind them. The hunters' drones were still searching, but the shuttle's speed and stealth kept them out of reach. Finally, Elias exhaled. We made it. Ariha sank back in relief, tears in her eyes. We survived. The masked stranger nodded. For now. But the galaxy is full of hunters. You must be prepared. Elias looked at him. And the Lumerian filter? She'll be okay? Ariha checked her mother. The filter pulsed steadily, energy stabilizing her. Yes, she will survive. Thanks to you. The stranger turned to Elias. Your ingenuity saved them. Do not underestimate human skill. It can turn the tide, even against relentless machines. Elias smiled faintly. Thanks. But we couldn't have done it without you. The stranger simply nodded, stepping back into the shadows of the shuttle cabin. I am a watcher. Sometimes, I intervene. Sometimes, I only observe. Today, I chose to intervene. Ariha looked at Elias. Do you think they will come again? Elias shrugged. Maybe. But now, we have time to plan. And time is everything. The shuttle sped away from Helios 9, slipping through the station's outer perimeter into the vast blackness of space. Ariha held her mother close, watching the stars stretch past the viewport. Elias kept his hands steady on the controls, eyes scanning for threats but feeling a rare sense of relief. The galaxy was full of danger, full of hunters and unknown enemies. But for now, they were alive. And sometimes, survival itself was the greatest victory. Ariha finally allowed herself to smile. Thank you for everything. Elias nodded. Sometimes, that's all anyone can do. Her mother stirred slightly, a faint hum of energy flowing through the filter. Ariha whispered softly. Words of gratitude and love in her own language. The Lumerian responded subtly, her body stabilizing fully, the faint glow fading to a peaceful shimmer. The masked stranger watched them quietly. Hope, ingenuity, courage. That is what keeps life alive, even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. Elias glanced at him. Then we make sure it lasts. Outside the shuttle, stars streaked past as they moved towards safer regions of space. For Ariha and her mother, for Elias, and even for the mysterious stranger who had chosen to help, it was the beginning of a new journey. A journey where human courage, adaptability, and empathy could truly shine. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the hunters would learn a simple truth. The universe does not bend easily to fear. And even relentless machines cannot outsmart ingenuity, hope, and the will to survive.